Okay, let's get started. Good morning, Sunnyvale. Hope everyone is enjoying the rain, and there's a lot more is predicted for this coming Sunday. I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein. Thank you for joining me again this week for my virtual weekly office hours. This is the 84th installment, and I hope everyone is doing well, staying healthy, staying dry. We've now reached 585 days since the March 16th, 2020 county health order. Basically, was put in place to slow the spread of COVID-19. And 19 months ago, I converted my weekly office hours at a local coffee shop into this weekly live stream address. I haven't missed a week since. And I'm also following up my televised session with in-person meetings at the coffee shop. So you can see me downtown later today if you want. So I'll be downtown all morning and actually into the afternoon meeting someone for lunch. But these weekly sessions are really great because they allow me to reflect on the last few weeks. They allow me to provide you some updates and some news, answer some of your questions, and of course just pass on some general words of encouragement. So thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and to work for Sunnyvale. A few months ago, I started changing my background art every week with art that's being provided by the Sunnyvale Art Club. And so this week's piece is called Internal Glory, and it's by Geeta Taneja. And if you are interested in purchasing this piece, definitely feel free to reach out and I'll put you in contact with the artist. Let's go ahead and get started and talk about what's happening at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last 2 weeks. Two weekends ago, on Saturday, we had our State of the City address and our community awards event. And thanks to everyone who was able to attend. It was we really weren't sure between COVID and the weather how things were going to turn out, but it was actually positive at the end of the day that we were able to actually have good weather. And we kept the event as to invite only, mainly because of COVID and trying to reduce the possible number of people that are there. But it was great to honor our community award winners. Last year we had to do it completely virtual, but it was small, it was private. The city staff did a fantastic job getting putting the event together. There are musical interludes by the Sunnyvale Singers, Pampa Dance Academy, and even we had lion dancers. So it was good to have some intermission between all the speeches. But I wanted to thank and congratulate the community award winners for 2021. Our distinguished resident was Murli Srinivasan. Our business of the year was Sunnyvale School District, which has not had an easy year, making sure that our children are being taught during COVID. Contribution to the arts was Chitra Venkatrampi. Educator of the year, we had two, Julio Delgado from Vargas and Marissa Kazmarski from Stockholmire. And environmental achievement was by Dorit and Dave Chapman. High school student of the year was Radhika Agrawal. And you can submit submit award recipients for our community awards year-round on the city website. So you go to the city website and search for community awards. If you know someone that falls into one of those categories, definitely submit their name for whatever they've done for our community. For the second year in a row, I ended up choosing two mayor's awards. And so every year the mayor has an award for outstanding achievement, award for excellence, and sometimes it's a group, sometimes it's an individual, sometimes it's both. So this being yet another, I'll say, difficult year, I ended up giving two awards. One, the group award, went to our CERT volunteers, and they've done a lot of work over the last few years, especially during COVID, to try to help out wherever they can. So they help out Sunnyvale Department of Public Safety, but they also help out, on multiple things like filling in as crossing guards, delivering blankets, making during COVID they were making tracing calls. They were doing community outreach to our seniors to make sure that they were safe, setting up appointments, for vaccinations, for testing, as well as delivering medicine and food. So they've really made a difference in our community. And then our individual award winner was Diane McKenna, and she's been serving our community for more than 40 years. She was actually council member, she was mayor, she was county supervisor, so she was Sunnyvale's first county supervisor. And she's been working on environmental issues, transportation issues, social issues. She was instrumental in getting funding for Sunnyvale Community Services' new home that they're working on. And so she's been doing multiple things in our community for many, many years. And so it was good to be able to honor Diane and what she's done for Sunnyvale and the Bay Area overall. Last week, Governor Newsom signed multiple bills, and he vetoed multiple bills. So it's been about a 3-week phase where he's been, going through the legislation that was passed and by the state legislators. One of which was passed was authored by Mark Berman, and it will require new small off-road engines. So they're called SOARs, usually primarily used for landscaping, to be zero emission. So it's small chainsaws, it's the leaf blowers, all that. So we won't be able to buy any gas-powered leaf blowers or similar equipment starting in California starting in 2024, and maybe a little bit earlier. But the legislation also came up with about $30 million to help fund that transition. And I'm happy, I was advocating for that for a while. The city evaluated that about 8 years ago, and the technology really wasn't there. And so, it was before I was on council, but council at that point decided that they weren't going to outlaw leaf blowers. That being said, in the interim, technology's changed. It's been a lot better as far as how long those leaf blowers can last. So it's good from that standpoint. Last Tuesday, City Council met, and we started off with several orders of the day. We declared October as Freedom from Workplace Bullying Week, October 17th through the 23rd. We declared October as Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and that's always an issue, making sure that you're safe online. And we declared October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And that was first done in October of 1987, but domestic violence issues are prevalent throughout all of our communities, and it's just important to raise awareness. Sunnyvale received 213 related domestic violence calls this year alone through September 30th, and so it's important to face domestic violence and find out education, deal with emotional abuse, and conceivably cultural alienation, family conflicts that are pervasive in different communities. So it was good to highlight that need within Sunnyvale. And then as far as general business, we had 2 big items, one of which is we considered the Sunnyvale Historical Society's proposed addition onto the museum. And so we made several resolutions or several directions over the last few years. But last year we said, if the museum, if the Historical Society wants to do an addition, the museum and the Historical Society needs to pay for it. And so they did that. CEQA came back, and ultimately it was, the apricot trees aren't historic, but that whole site is historic. And so, we have Opie, the Heritage Interpretive Exhibit. We have the museum. We have the Bianchi barn that was moved there multiple years ago. We have the orchard itself. And so we basically directed that the design can go forward. So we basically approved CEQA from a council standpoint. The next step is for the Historical Society to submit the final plans to staff. Conceivably, there will be 5 to 10 trees that will be removed and or replaced within the orchard. And ultimately, those trees are not historic. It's the orchard itself is historic. An apricot tree normally lasts about 30 to 40 years max, and really produces for about 20 years good. And they're constantly being replaced and cut down. So if you go by the orchard now, you'll see multiple saplings that are small sticks that are, will soon be, producing apricots in a few years. And so council approved that, and that will be moving forward as far as, the final design and figuring out the actual logistics of where that it sits as the addition onto the museum. And then the other thing is we looked at the transfer of 5 general fund owned parcels to the housing mitigation fund. And so that was the related project. So that's 90 units of developmentally disabled and low income housing that will be on city owned land. And that'll be happening at Matilda, Iowa, and Charles. So it was transferring 5 properties that were part of the general fund into the housing fund. And so, one of those 6 properties that will make up that larger site was already in the housing mitigation fund, but this basically added the other 5 so that they can do the long-term lease of that land through the related project that's actually creating that affordable housing site. And ultimately they'll be breaking ground sometime in the next 6 months, depending upon, of course, the weather. And then we also ended up closing that council meeting in the memory of Robert Lawson. So, Bob Lawson was, a longtime resident here in Sunnyvale. He was an attorney. He was actually a pro bono attorney before there were public defenders. But he was, a city commissioner for multiple things. He was an activist. He was a volunteer. He's very active in Rotary for the last 35 years. But from a city council standpoint, he was on multiple commissions. He was chair of the Planning Commission and the Parks Commission. He was on the Arts Commission. He was also on the Charter Review Committee. So I served, with him along the way, and was happy to talk to him. Him and his wife Margaret received the Murphy Award for Lifetime Achievement back in 2020. And so it was good to honor his memory at the end of that meeting, and was always happy to discuss planning issues with him, and he was always ready with a smile and a compliment. So Bob will definitely be missed in our community. Last Wednesday, I got a tour of the new City Hall. And so the new phase 1 of the modernization of our Civic Center is an addition onto public safety, basically a new emergency operations center. So that's that 2-story concrete building that's being built there. And then the new City Hall. And so the City Hall is a 4-story building, which is merging ultimately 4 sets of buildings. So the old City Hall, the City Hall Annex, the several temporary buildings, basically that sit to the south of current City Hall, as well as kind of the rabbit hutches where Nova and several businesses are across the street. But ultimately, that merges all those into one building with underground parking, and will create about 6 acres of open space. So I think the design is looking good. I toured the building, wonderful views, and it was good to see, kind of get the feel for how the new council chambers is going to sit. But it was actually very positive from that standpoint. And then last Friday, I got a tour of our new REI. And I was happy to see the interior of the store. The Mountain View store closed last Sunday, and they've been transferring some of the items from that store into our Sunnyvale store. The new store is actually bigger, so they've actually had a lot of new items already brought in, but some things they will transfer over and slowly put out in stock in this store. But ultimately, that is opening later today. And then last weekend on Saturday, Sunnyvale Community Services had a craft fair at Murphy Park. So it was always good to help basically fund Sunnyvale Community Services, which really makes a difference in our community. And then they will have another craft fair the weekend of November 20th and 21st. So that's upcoming. On Saturday, there was actually a Cupertino Diwali event. And so it's good to actually celebrate Diwali with many Sunnyvale residents, Cupertino residents. We have our own celebration coming up on October 30th. And then Tuesday of this week, our county supervisors met and they supported a proposal for a North County West Valley Health Clinic. So supervisors committee and basically brought this forward, and it was unanimously approved by the other county supervisors. But we really need to open up a county health clinic in the North County and the West Valley. Currently there are no county health clinics in this area, even though the area is home to about 400,000 residents. And there are also more than, 39,000 low-income residents in the area who receive that health care coverage through Medi-Cal, and 20,000 people who are already received their care from Santa Clara Valley Medical Center and really could benefit from a location that's more North County at the end of the day, where they live and work. So from that standpoint, I was very happy to advocate with the county supervisors to make sure that that's moving forward, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing that built in our city if we're lucky, but one of our surrounding cities, because I do think that really makes a difference. And then on Wednesday, Governor Newsom announced that California will have another historic budget surplus next year. So, and Newsom in July signed the $262 billion budget. But of course, a lot of that relied on a projected, $75 billion surplus based upon estimates from January, but also pulled in $27 billion in COVID-19 relief funds from the federal government. So we'll see how the budget proposal comes out in January, but it's looking like it'll be a lot of funding for different programs, which our cities are always looking to hopefully put those funds to work at our city level. So keep your fingers crossed on what will be part of that budget that can help our city. Yesterday was the Great American Shakeout. So this is our yearly reminder for people to be prepared for the next big earthquake. And so, I saw one school, doing their disaster drill as I was going by, but, definitely everyone should be prepared for that next big disaster. One of the things you can do is take the 7-week CERT class, and the next one of those starts in January. There's also kind of a personal emergency preparedness class that isn't multiple weeks, but it's just an hour or two. That's coming up at the beginning of December. So definitely consider different ways that you and your family can be prepared. I went through the class many years ago and have been a strong supporter of that CERT and SERVE team. That really makes a difference in training. Over the years, they've trained more than 600 Sunnyvale residents to be prepared, and the 58th class actually graduates tomorrow. So happy to be there for their graduation. But it's really that set of residents will really make a difference when there's a natural disaster, because there won't be enough public safety officers in any of our communities to take care of dealing with the frontline emergency immediately. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly COVID numbers. From a national standpoint, COVID cases are stabilizing a bit. We now have 45.1 million cases. That's down to 600,000 in the last week from 700,000 a week ago. And then, we've had over 219 million vaccinated with at least one dose. So 79% of adults have at least one dose, and 69% of adults are fully vaccinated. And then from a death toll standpoint, we've had 730,000 deaths, another 12,000 just in the last week. So we still have people dying because of COVID-19. And then from California standpoint, we've had 4.6 million positive test cases of COVID. That's down to about 4,500 cases a day now, which is down from about 5,000 a week ago. So things are looking better. And on a positive note, we've had 51 million vaccines administered, about 700,000 just in the past week. We're still at number 10 on states with adults with at least one dose, one shot, which is 74%. And then we're still 15th with states with residents that are fully vaccinated at 61%. From a county, of course, we're doing a great job. Yesterday, the county reported new cumulative test case of 144,000. That's up only 800 since last week, and that's down from 900 a week ago. So we're seeing the new cases trend downward. We did have another 13 additional deaths, so we were at 1,834 deaths. But 89.6% of county residents age 12 and older have had at least one dose. So that's fantastic. Almost 90% of our county of our county residents 12 and older had one dose, and 85% of our county is 12 and older is fully vaccinated. So that's amazing. Getting to that 85% number. I think you'll see a lot more press today. Because we've hit that number. 85 is fantastic, and thank you for everyone who's got their vaccination. I continue to do a lot of advocating on our city's behalf, at the county level, talking to county health and our county supervisors. For a testing standpoint, the county is now having testing at the community center on the first and third Thursday of the month. And so we had one yesterday at the community center. And they'll be back the first Thursday in November, and they're normally there from 9:30 to 4 p.m. But you can start scheduling appointments 7 days ahead of that date that they're there at the community center, and you just go to sccfreetest.org. And then as far as being vaccinated, the county has drop-in vaccination clinics around the county every day. And so if you go to sccfreevax.org, you can do that. You can get an appointment, or you can just do a pop-in. There's actually a pop-up at El Dorado Mobile Home Community tomorrow. And that'll be Saturday from 9:30 in the morning to 4 p.m. And the El Dorado community, the El Dorado Mobile Home Community is at 600 East Waddell, right where Fair Oaks and 101 meet. And they'll have coffee and donuts for as long as they last. So definitely come out, and you'll see me there tomorrow morning. And then I also wanted to announce some upcoming events. So lots of things happening upcoming. I think, our new REI store, as I said, opens today at 9 a.m. So if you want to go take a look, start your shopping, definitely you can go by there. Their grand opening celebration actually starts next Friday, the 29th, and so it'll be actually all weekend long, the 29th, 30th, 31st. There'll be giveaways, vendors, music, lots more. I talked to the manager, and they're ready to go. So it's a soft opening this week as they get everything logistically settled and get all their staff used to the new store. So definitely that'll be good. Later today from 4 to 7 p.m., Kids Care Dental and Orthodontics on Washington Avenue. They'll be having a ribbon cutting event and open house. So that's right near Francis and Washington. So if you want to come by there, there's giveaways and a little bit of a celebration starting at 4 p.m. And then at 5 p.m., there's actually a fundraiser bike ride at Cycle Bar. So that's the indoor cycling gym that's on Washington Avenue, basically almost right across the street from the Kids Care Dental. And so that's for the Young Survivors Coalition for cancer survivors. So that's today at 5 p.m. If you want to join that, there'll be light snacks and I think even a swag bag. So I'll be there for that. So you can come downtown this afternoon and see me at both of those events. And then next Thursday, Sunnyvale Community Services will actually be having its ribbon cutting for its new home. And so this has been a long time coming. Sunnyvale Community Services has been serving our community for more than 50 years, and they had just, ran out of space in their old location across from Home Depot, or right near Home Depot. They're now closer to Lawrence Expressway, across from Sports Basement, if you know where that is. But it's great. I've done some tours as they were starting in the middle of construction, but they're having a small event next Thursday afternoon for those who can make it. And then Friday, October 29th is the deadline for the city to receive applications for the community event grants in the neighborhood grant program. And so we move to a fiscal year. So if your neighborhood wants to sponsor an event, a potluck, a diversity group, a kids event in the summer, this is your chance. So basically, next Friday is your deadline to do that, and it's for neighborhood grants as well as kind of community grants, which are much bigger, like the pet parade and other wider events like the Downtown Association Summer Music. But definitely consider doing that. That's one of the things that the city tries to encourage, community, whether or not at the neighborhood basis or a wider community basis. And then next Saturday, October 30th, is the Diwali event at Sunnyvale Community Center. So that will be happening from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Definitely come by and enjoy, that Indian Festival of Lights. It's really to celebrate, the triumph of good over evil, knowledge over ignorance, light over darkness. So definitely enjoy that. And then actually next Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 p.m., Whole Foods will be having their 1-year anniversary celebration. Last year's anniversary, or last year's grand opening, occurred in the middle of COVID. So they had to tamp down the celebration portion of the event a little bit. But it's good that from 4 to 6 p.m. next week, they'll be having a little bit of a celebration to celebrate that 1 year of being open in Sunnyvale. And I know a lot of residents that really enjoy our Whole Foods, and I think it's really added a lot from a walkable downtown environment. And then Saturday, and then Sunday, of course, is Halloween, and so there'll be a Halloween pet parade downtown, starting around 10 and going to 1. And then, so it's a time for kids and parents and their pets to dress up and join that. If you go to sunnyvalepetparade.com, you can sign up there. And then Sunday afternoon at the Quarter Note, and so that's the nightclub near Central and Lawrence. They will have their annual Canine Search and Rescue fundraiser, and so I've been there for many years in the past. But that's actually very good because it's it'll be a barbecue, an auction, live music, a car show, and always happy to go out and support a good cause like the County Search and Rescue. Okay, and then on Friday, November 5th, that's the deadline for submission for our boards and commissions. Our recruitment goes on year round, but we have 2 positions that are currently open. One is the personnel board and one is the planning commission. So you have until that Friday, November 5th at 4 p.m. to turn in your application, and then interviews are scheduled for November 16th. And then on Monday, November 8th, the applications are due for our Sunnyvale Public Art Program, the Great Box Cover-Up Program. So this is something that I've been wanting to get going for a while now, but this is to cover utility boxes around the city, make them, what I'll consider is something that's a little, utilitarian and kind of just isn't the nicest thing to see on our sidewalks, but adding, engaging works of art around that. And so There'll be 12 artists chosen, or artistic teams, that will be selected to design and execute basically original artworks using utility boxes as their canvases. And so this is mainly focused on city-owned utility boxes. The first phase will be those located near downtown Sunnyvale, and then we'll be moving on to other areas of the city. So in the long run, yeah, I think it'll be really good to beautify a lot more of the city, as opposed to the old gray or brown utility boxes as you see around the city. And then later, of course, in November, the ice skating returns to Sunnyvale, and that's November 19th through January 22nd, and that'll be in the Macy's parking lot near Murphy Avenue, near Washington. So that's happening. So those are kind of upcoming events. Our next council meeting is next Tuesday. It'll start with the Public Safety Awards, which is really a good video on all the things that DPS efforts have done over the last year, some of their accomplishments in the community. And then we'll also be undertaking a resolution to continue virtual public meetings for the city councils and our boards and commissions and our council subcommittees during COVID-19. And so this is all based upon AB 361, which allows us to continue the remote meetings, which I think has been very useful, especially during COVID for our residents, as well as our city staff and our council members, until we basically are past this emergency, which hopefully is sometime in the spring. We'll continue to do kind of remote meetings, and then at some point move to hybrid meetings where council and a few city staff are there, and then any residents that want to show up can join the meeting, but anyone else can be remote, which I think will be very positive for how those meetings are run. And then we'll also look at building a pipeline for students for careers in public service. So, looking at working with some of the community colleges nearby to highlight some of the abilities and some of the jobs that we have available at a city standpoint, and making sure that we're seeing a pipeline of here's the skills that you need in order to transition to a well-paying job working for the city. So we'll see how that goes. And then on Tuesday, November 9th, council will also meet, and we'll have a study session on the golf subsidy study issue. And then we'll also have a final park design for Redwood Place, which is previously the AMD site. That's the Irvine construction site where they're adding about 900 apartments and over 100 condos on the old AMD site. And so, but the big thing is they're also adding a 6.5-acre park there, which will be available to all the San Miguel area and some of the other condos that have been built over the years in that industrial to residential area as that land is transitioned. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. If you have a question, of course, just add it to the comments here. Melissa asked, are we going to keep our police? I keep hearing that politicians want to defund the police. So there are no plans to defund our police. I think Sunnyvale's public safety model of kind of that merge model with police, fire, and EMT trained officers is a model for good public safety. And when they talk about reimagining what the police department can be, I think, our public safety model, it really is that. It's basically every officer, is fully trained on multiple areas, as well as, especially earlier in their career, moving back and forth between fire and police, which I think really makes a difference. Last year Sunnyvale was ranked as the safest city in the nation, and I think that model has something to do with that. Our DPS is actively engaged with our community, and last year we held a series of listening events to kind of continue to improve those relationships and that transparency with our residents, and getting more feedback as far as that's concerned. We haven't had some of our community engagement. National Night Out was much reduced this year, but hopefully next year we'll start having some of those community events, as well as some of our academies, our citizens academies, as we bring residents back, and I think it's just better. Sunnyvale PAL League, it's better for those relationships between our public safety and those officers. Luau asked, I recently learned that the plot of land at 2035 White Oak Lane is being considered as a site for construction for up to 75 units of interim housing for the City of Santa Clara's unhoused residents. I'm very concerned about the project affecting our neighborhood. Although the site is physically in Santa Clara City, the second order effects of having a shelter at that location will also be felt in Sunnyvale. What can we do? So yeah, I've reached out to the county to get more information. I haven't heard back yet. This is supposedly a Life Move site, and Life Move's model has worked very well in Mountain View as far as helping previously homeless get into a transitionary location where they can then be placed in permanent housing. But definitely I'm trying to find out more information. This is in Santa Clara, but it's just west of Lawrence Expressway. It's just east of Ponderosa Park. So as you go, it's kind of near the old Corn Palace in that area, but it's Santa Clara land, and the border with Santa Clara and Sunnyvale kind of goes back and forth across Lawrence Expressway, depending upon what sites there are. But I'm trying to get more information, and I'll have hopefully more info at a later date. Sue asked, is the Safe Routes to School bike plan for Sunnyvale Avenue set in stone? Can it still be modified to allow different style bike lanes between Hendy and Maud? There are multiple styles between El Camino and Evelyn on Sunnyvale Avenue, which accommodate businesses and residents. Cyclists do not seem to be confused when right along that busy section. So the recommendation from council and from BPAC, and kind of the direction from council for Hendy to Maud was pretty clear. The direction was to remove the parking, remove the parking south of California and between Hendy and Maud, remove parking on one side of the street and add buffered bike lanes. That was pretty clear, and definitely our residents have been talking about making sure that buffered bike lanes are the safest you can have, especially from our biking community. That's one of the safest things that we can do, so ultimately that design is moving forward. That's conceivably it might change a little bit, but staff has been given that direction, and they did the preliminary design, and that will that's giving direction that they'll start doing that final design by I think June of next year, and start that implementation of what those bike lanes will be. So at that point, it's most likely that council will not take that up again. We have the funding. It's a mixture of city funding and other funding, grant funding, that will move that forward quickly. And it's that missing segment. When you talk about, okay, yeah, there's other things between Evelyn and El Camino Real. And actually, just in last night's BPAC meeting, staff is actually looking at improving the bike lanes from Evelyn to El Camino Real to make those bike lanes wider and add some sort of buffer. So ultimately, they're trying to improve those bike lanes also. So the concept of, well, let's make it safer or easier for cars along Sunnyvale between Hendy and Maud probably won't happen, mainly because it's like we're trying to create better bike lanes, and especially that north-south Borregas, Sunnyvale, Saratoga path that cuts through the center of our city, because that north-south connects Columbia, Bishop, and of course Fremont High School and of course into Moffett Park and into Cupertino. So it is really important as far as the safety along that route. Frank commented, I wanted to mention the bike lanes in Sunnyvale. and other areas in the Bay Area are fairly narrow. It seems a little dangerous to operate a bike in the lanes because they have less space than is ideal. Can there be a note to expand these lanes in Sunnyvale, but also other Bay Area cities could really enhance the safety of bikers by doing this? And yes, we're always looking at improving bike lanes, much like I just talked about along Sunnyvale Avenue. A lot of times it depends on when those bike lanes were put in. We had a big active transportation plan effort and safe routes to schools efforts over the last few years, and so that's kind of set a new standard on safety for bicyclists, and looking to do whatever we can to widen those bike lanes around the city, add bike lanes where we can, conceivably removing a certain amount of parking also. One of the things, or actual lanes, one of the things that went in front of the BPAC last night was a recommendation to City Council to remove one lane in either direction along Java Drive in Moffett Park to make a bike lane as well as a buffered area, because there is no space there for bike lanes. And so you have 2 lanes in either directions along the light rail tracks, and what they're doing is reducing that down to 1 lane with just or the recommendation of council is reducing it to 1 lane, and then having a buffer on either side of that 1 lane, and then a bike lane. So doing what they can in the community to increase that. I think that comes in front of council, I think the end of November. But that's one of the things that the city is doing to try to expand those bike lanes wherever we can. Hannah asked, is trick-or-treating happening on Sunday night on October 31st? So yes, trick-or-treating will be happening this year. It happened last year, although it was very limited. People, of course, should still be careful and watch what groups you're mingling with, wearing masks as much as possible. I talked to the county this week, and they will probably be putting out new guidance. They still have last year's guidance posted. Definitely last year, we didn't have vaccines yet. Kids were, and so pretty much masked, and there are questions about contact exposure. And so, things have improved quite a bit over the last year. But that being said, people still need to be safe, but ultimately people will be out trick-or-treating. I've heard from multiple parents whose kids are looking forward to that. Let's see if there are any questions. No, I don't see. No, don't see any other questions. David asked what is happening with the parking lots downtown. And so one of the things that the city is doing is trying to promote, EV infrastructure within the city. And so you'll see several fenced areas in the downtown parking lots at Evelyn and Francis, and Evelyn and Sunnyvale. And that's ultimately, we partnered with EVgo to add new charging stations for that EV infrastructure. And so those 2 parking lots are currently have blocked off areas while they install chargers, EV chargers in those spots. They'll also be putting EV charging stations at the community center. So that's one of the things that I think is very positive. We got some grants for that, and I think ultimately whatever we can do to help that EV infrastructure to make it easier for those with electric vehicles to charge, the better off we are. Let's go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me again this week. I'm really proud of our city, especially over the last year and a half. Residents continue to help others, donate food and clothes, pull together, just help others in their community. The future, of course, is still uncertain. New issues come up almost every day, and those challenges are difficult, but your actions really do make a difference. Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together. We will get through this together. Thanks for listening, Take care. Have a good weekend. Stay dry, and see you next week. Goodbye.